like to have asthma? What's it like to suffer from allergic asthma and have a severe attack during this time? What does that look like? Well, here I am. I'm grateful because I have people in my life that also suffer with asthma. So, and they have some severe allergies, so I can speak to them about it. So it's not just pollen, dust, and trees, and all of those things that animals, dander. Those aren't the only allergens. There are also environmental allergens that people really need to be aware of. Not just conventional things that maybe someone would think of, like Febreze, that more people are becoming aware of. Candles, because of the way fragrances are created in the U.S. Well, not just the U.S., but other places. Like if you see something with the label of fragrance or parfum, that generally means that it's not coming from a natural place. But natural doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe for someone with asthma either. Essential oils contain volatile organic compounds, which, according to journals and studies that I've read, are not safe necessarily for people with asthma. And I learned this the hard way, unfortunately, which sometimes in life, unfortunately, I learn things the hard way. I wish that weren't so, but that is what it is. I just kind of accept that. It's not the best way to learn for my lungs, I can tell you that. Excuse me. But, so essential oils. I know that I've heard that they help some people. I don't see enough scientific evidence right now giving research that I've seen, because I look up peer-reviewed journal articles. That's really important to me, the scientific evidentiary support. Now, that is not to say that sometimes the studies can be skewed or whatnot, but it's looking at the data. It's knowing some about chemistry, which I do because I've taken chemistry classes in college, because it's like one of my top interests, chemistry and mathematics. So when I can read that, and I honestly, in my health journey, I've been reading these peer-reviewed journals, these peer-reviewed studies since 2014, and that was way before I had had any college chemistry or calculus for that matter. But I, at that point, started having reactions to products I was using that were making me sick. And it's kind of how I learned to self-advocate, which is something that I'm going to suggest anybody with asthma, anybody with lung disorder, COPD, anybody that is at risk right now in the world we now live in with coronavirus. I'm going to suggest that anybody with those issues, anybody that is elderly or in a category that the CDC and the World Health Organizations, anybody in those categories, please, I'm just asking you for your sake, please self-advocate, because, you know, I mean, I've heard this said before, but I honestly believe it, even though I love science, guys. You just don't know how nerdy I get over it. I love the data. I love the equations. I love learning. But at the same time, humans are fallible. Doctors, when they call it a practice, they are practicing, because we don't know everything. Clearly, we don't know everything. If what's happening in my country, the U.S., if what's happening in the U.S. right now is happening, clearly people don't know everything when leaders are giving really terrible advice and not listening to the scientists that know quite a bit more. And just because a person thinks that they are a scientist does not mean that their business degree got them the education needed to understand data and evidentiary support. So I'm just going to say, educate yourself. I'm going to implore you to do that. I am also going to just share a few things that I know just personally from my own experience, because I find that to be important right now. And I know that there are other people that suffer with asthma that have compromised immune systems, or they have autoimmune diseases, which unfortunately, if you have one, you're likely to collect a few others. And I'm 35, I'm going to admit that, right here. I'm 35, but I have a compromised immune system. My doctor had to put me on a course of steroids, and that's terrifying for me personally in this climate, because that means my immune system, while the steroids are trying to calm things down, it's more at risk than it was before. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and that's actually another piece of what got me interested in advocating for myself, because I'd had enough of doctors, a lot of the times men, sometimes women, telling me or treating me as if I was crazy, when in fact my numbers indicated something was off. And I remember almost having an argument with a med student at we'll call it a doctor's office in Tennessee. I'm not going to implicate anyone. It's when I was living there, because I had had multiple health issues. I had to have a barrage of testing. And sometimes a lot of the times the conventional American model does not work. And I accept that. But in accepting that, I take responsibility for my own health, because it's important to me, because I intend on being around and living, so I can help other people like you, beautiful, wonderful people watching this. Okay, so now I want to talk about what helps, what I know of. But I do still ask you to research this information for yourself, because everyone's different and not the same things are going to help anyone. So stay tuned for the next clip.